broke the scale. So not on purpose or anything. It's just that we haven't really replaced it since he broke it because he got it wet and like it was more than a little wet and it kind of shorted out. So yeah. Don't soak the scale. Yep. It kind of sucks though. I mean, if I stand on it, I can kind of guess based on the way that it moves. But it's not exact anymore, and so I just try to stay off of it. Weight, fat. But also, I'm not pulling on this, and I can slip 2 fingers into it without it stretching at all. Normally, I can't do that. And normally, I can still do this. Dink. I was actually touching my wrists are usually not exactly the fattest part of me. So, that's actually kind of normal. But I'm not sure if it's just less swelling in my joints or... But also, like, my stomach kind of, like, deflated. I don't know if it was because I just had a bunch of bloating or what. At least I know I wasn't pregnant. That joke was in bad taste. Because a miscarriage would suck. I've actually been through that. But no. I go through different points of swelling and stuff, so Jean's like, you look like you've lost weight, and I'm like, my thyroid looks like I've gained weight. Because it swells up in here, and yeah, it's swollen right now. So you can see the way that my face looks fluctuates because of my thyroid. Yeah, it sucks. So right now, my boobs are kind of tender and stuff, but like I'm not pregnant. It's not that weirdness. It's just like Jean did something that would normally be okay earlier, and I was like, ow. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, my hormones are so fucked up right now. This stuff can happen. Like, it's not the first time that that's happened to me, so yeah, I'm familiar with it. It actually feels different than your mammary glands producing milk. It's not the same. It's just like your nerves are misfiring in places. So, like, be careful. It doesn't feel the same. It feels different. So, yeah. Like, whenever I was not younger, I realized I couldn't even, like, crave mayonnaise without somebody asking if I was pregnant. It didn't even matter if I was sexually active or not. Like, you crave certain things. I actually probably crave it because I don't get enough of the stuff that's in milk because drinking it results in things. I'm lactose intolerant. So, I don't want to explain that. What that essentially means, it's not an allergy. Lactose intolerance is an intolerance. It basically... My grandmother used to tell me that cheese and milk would back me up, but for lactose intolerance, it does the opposite. So, an example of someone who is completely blind to everything, my grandmother always refused to acknowledge the fact that I was lactose intolerant. She always continuously told me that I would get backed up. And instead, the opposite always happened. It was actually adulthood whenever I figured out that that was why. I just kind of thought that my grandmother was being shitty. Because she was shitty with everything else. I actually thought that she was full of shit. So, yeah. The more you know. So, yeah. So the vitamin D makes everything, like, I guess you actually, well, I don't guess, I know, you're actually supposed to have, like, more oil come out of your skin and hair and scalp and all that, and you're just, my hair's not actually oily, but like face. I keep on having to like wash it off, and naturally this also means that like my bangs get it, but like the rest of my hair is like this. And it doesn't take very long. I feel like this is weird. This doesn't normally happen. But then I'm like, is it the Hashimoto's? Or is it the fact that vitamin D is supposed to help your body get rid of toxins in it and stuff? It's supposed to help your body process certain things and be able to do that certain things. So I'm like, bleed to death or lose weight. This is actually a thing that I'm wondering. I'm like, well, naturally, it wouldn't matter if you bled to death. You basically lose your entire body weight. Yeah. But there is actually a moment that I wondered, if I keep on taking this, what can I do? Like, if this turns out to be the cause, what can I do to mitigate it so that I can still take it? Because, what can I say? I'm not fat because of my lifestyle. I am fat despite it. I get twice the amount of exercise that is recommended for anyone. I do this every single day. I do 2 hours of exercise every day. I eat relatively healthy. I mean, sometimes there's stuff that isn't, but that's with anybody. It's not like I'm sitting here eating donuts and crap. Like, I don't even touch that stuff. But, sometimes we have, like, chips, Pringles or something, or like goldfish crackers. I actually eat more crackers than I do regular food. That's the one thing, though. But that's also because my stomach, like, is not very nice. It doesn't handle a lot of things very well. So it actually has a lot to do with that, and rather than because I just eat junk food all day. It's more like a handful of goldfish crackers or like a couple saltines or something. It's to settle my stomach. It's because my stomach doesn't digest a lot of things very well, so I don't really want to see it. Again, I don't want it to take a return trip. So there are things that I do for that, but other than that, no. Not really. I mean, every once in a while we have, like, sweets or something, but then, like, I make it healthy, and Jean is like, stop reminding me that this is healthy. Like, I've learned how to sweeten cakes with fruit instead of sugar, or just with a little bit of sugar, and then fruit, maybe a little bit of honey in there, and some different spices that bring out the sweetness and the flavors. And Chris will be like, yes, this is awesome, and Jean will be like, so good, and then I'll be like, and it's healthy too, and he'll be like, no, don't tell me this, I don't want to know this, no. And I'll be like, it's healthy too. We joke like that to each other. We've known each other a very long time, so we have our little moments. So, and I'll be like, why shouldn't I remind you that it's healthy? And he's like, because it's just blasphemy. It's not allowed to be healthy. And I'm like, well, if you can't tell by eating it, I've done my job. I've done good work, so, yeah. But whenever you do that, you kind of have to understand that, like, people sweeten food with other things before they had, like, refined sugar. Like, most of the world didn't actually have sugarcane for quite some time. And if you had access to anything even remotely sweet, and you liked sweet things, you just added those naturally sweet things. Like, there's a reason why there's a way to literally pull the pectin out of fruit. If you cook it a certain way, you actually literally bring out the natural sugar in fruit. It's also kind of better for you than refined sugar. Your body can actually only process, I forget if it's 1 or 2 different kinds. It's like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm tired. So I'm gonna get done with this. And yeah, don't expect me to be all pulling a textbook out of my ass right now. Oh god, that image. No, I couldn't really pull that out at either. Not even. Yeah. So like I was telling June earlier, well, my hips haven't gotten any smaller. And he's like, you have gorgeous hips. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yes. All serious. I'm like, really? And he's like, yes. And I'm just... And then we ended up having a random conversation with Chris, because... yeah. And it was shortly before it was time for him to go to bed, and June was like, alright. He was basically giving him the wisdom of life, I guess. And I was supporting this. You know, he was like, we were talking about things that were rude and polite, and somehow we got into, you know, I was telling him about something, and I'm like, well, it's not really polite to ask people their weight or their age, but also, especially don't ask women because their reaction will be more extreme than a guy's. And his dad who said, also never answer the question, does this make my butt look fat? Does this make my butt look big? And I'm like, really, honey? And then I'm just like, yeah, don't. Your dad has the formula down. It is a trap. Because if you say no, she will not believe you. And if you say yes, well, that's obvious. No. If you say yes, you're in trouble. If you say no, you're a liar. Don't answer. And then we went into how me and his dad avoid it, and we pointed it out. So he's actually seen, like, us talk about this. Like, I'll just be like, he's listened, he's heard things, he's been like, what? Ha ha ha. He thinks it's cute. He doesn't even understand it. So we were just telling him, like, see how your dad handles it? Do that. I'm like, honey, does this make my butt look big? He's like, we actually have, like, at this point, it's kind of funny between us because of the way that we go through it. I'm just like, does this make my butt look big? And he's like, it makes your butt look beautiful, honey, and your butt's beautiful without it, too. And I'm like, honey, really? He's like, really? And then we'll go down the list. Honey, does this accentuate my backside? And he'll go, you have a beautiful backside. And then we've gone on like this for years. He's been like this as long as I've known him. He's just like, I'm never gonna answer this question. And then I'm like, okay, is this, I can walk outside in this, or would you want someone else to be looking at my butt while I'm wearing this? Would I want someone else to look at my butt while I'm wearing this? And he knows the standard. I actually don't want things to hug my butt too much, because then it just, I don't know, I don't really like tight clothing. So, I guess it depends on what you want. Like, ask specific questions, like, does this lift my rump the way that I want it to? I guess if you're into that. I know some are. I'm not. But as a teenager, I tried some things. So, yeah. I was actually heavier then, but I carried it differently. So, I actually don't look as heavy then, but I was actually heavier. Yeah. I thought that I was the size of a house, but then I saw like the one picture that I have of myself as a teenager. I don't even think any other pictures even really exist, just of an everyday picture. And it was whenever we were volunteering and covering up some paint. We were trying to scrub off spray paint from some graffiti. And they didn't want to have to, it was a stone wall, so like, and you couldn't really paint it because then you would have to like, they didn't want to have to paint it because they wanted to keep it natural. So instead of painting over it, we were scrubbing it, and it was not fun. But it was, we were trying to help the community, so we were doing that. And, it was just this one awkward moment where the person was clearly taking a picture of somebody else, and I guess they just didn't get it right and ended up getting me. And like, you can still see her in the pic, but then you see me, and it's like weird, awkward, and like I'm like half, like almost all the way stood up with a thing in my hand from going back to the bucket, you know. And I've got like that stupid backpack purse on that I now think just looks stupid. I had that thing. It was really stupid. Like it was basically a backpack. It was basically a backpack. Yeah. But it also didn't get in my way while I was doing that stuff, so that's actually why I liked it. But it kind of looks stupid. And yeah. So, I was actually still fat then, but like, I weighed, like, people would look at me and guess that I only weighed 200 pounds. I actually weighed twice that. On a good day. My weight didn't really fluctuate like it does now. So there was actually a point whenever I was almost 500 pounds, and you would look at me and think, 200. Now not so much. Yeah. Don't ask me to explain it. Yeah, there was just so much going on there. Anyway, taking the vitamin D, like, my skin is actually getting oily, my hair is actually getting oily without me putting stuff in it, and yeah, like, I didn't actually put anything in this. This is all natural, as opposed to my usual, I'm gonna put something in there. Also, apparently, I need to wash it again, because packing. What the hell is that? Oh. Wow, that's actually a piece of my scalp. So, it's actually flaking instead of peeling. That's pleasant. But yeah, entire sections of my scalp peel. But apparently with the vitamin D, it's just flaking harmlessly. No blood. No, yeah, I actually bleed. So, to take it or not to take it, why don't we try half a dose? We actually got that because we know that I run low in vitamin D. And there are signs that you can see, you know, before you go to the doctor. And, my body was showing signs that, like, my liver was struggling. Like, no matter how much water I drank, things weren't clearing. Weren't even getting close to clear. It was all really dark. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I really don't feel like explaining it. So, basically, number one is not supposed to be really dark. If it is, it means that either you're not drinking enough water or there is a possible issue. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going through kidney failure, but it does tend to mean that your kidneys are under, a little more stress or something else could be wrong, like a really bad infection or something, and probably, like, go to the doctor. But also, I am so tired of doctors that I just kind of was like, well, if this works, I'm fine. And it did work. Mind you, I also had to learn the science for this stuff because most of my life I was on a shit ton of medications that I was told that I needed to look out for this stuff because they could all cause kidney failure. Basically, my kidneys have been through the ringer, and I went through most of my life, like, being told that this was a thing because, like, no matter what, I just couldn't get it clear, and then, like, they would yell at me because I guess this was somehow my fault. They thought that I wasn't drinking enough, that I was full of shit. Like, doctors, whenever I would tell them, they would immediately go to, you just don't drink enough water. Like, I was drinking 9 fucking glasses a day. I was actually drinking too much water. And that still didn't, like, flush my kidneys. At that point, you have a problem. And I was already on all this stuff that could cause kidney failure. And they had to test me every 6 months to see if my kidneys were okay. Yeah. So I was drinking a ton of water. And yeah. Come to think of it, that's actually about the time that I started to actually get lucid. Because growing up, at one point they decided that it was a great idea to put me on a shit ton of medications. So because of that, I actually had to start drinking a lot of water, and it's possible that at least partially, like, we accidentally flushed part of my system. Like, it was still affecting me, and it was still fucking me up, but I was actually lucid. And I could actually tell them that it was fucking me up. They didn't listen worth shit. But I could actually tell them. And I started to be able to retain information again and all that. It actually had shit to do with the story my grandmother told everyone. It was literally because the moment she got a hold of me, she immediately had me put on so many medications I could barely even speak. Like, there was actually a point someone had to tell me my own name. There is no point in which I could say that I wanted to be called Luna, that anyone would listen to me. And there were several times over the years that I tried. It wasn't until adulthood that I got that nickname back, as far as, like, being called that. And basically I had to stop taking shit about it. It kind of got to the point where I was like, look, if you respect me, you'll call me this. Because this is what I want to be called, and I have a reason for it. And it has nothing to do with Sailor Moon. It's something I was called long before Sailor Moon. Before I ever saw Sailor Moon. Something my dad used to call me. Some of those people I couldn't even say that to, because they actually thought that my dad was, a deadbeat. So whenever I actually remembered that he wasn't, and realized that I'd just been repeating a bunch of things my grandmother told me to, that was devastating. My dad died whenever I was a preschool. And I actually did go to preschool. There was a time that we were talking about it on the playground, and I can actually remember this. That I was asked, and I said I didn't even, conceive what it was. And I said no, but I actually did go to preschool. Anyway, it started off with my dad calling me La Lune. La Lune, La Lune, you know, French. And whenever I was little, it's actually pretty embarrassing because I didn't really pronounce it well. And I had this little quirk where I would put ah at the end of all of these words that weren't in English. So it didn't matter if it was Spanish or, you know, I used to say amigas, you know, instead of amigo. I would say amigas. You know, everything had an S at the end. This was true whenever I was little too. Like, it was just a weird thing that I had where I just, for some reason, it was just a persistent little thing that I did whenever I was little. It wasn't because I really couldn't pronounce it. It was just a quirk. I thought that it sounded nice, I guess. Kids do weird things. So I don't really think I had any bigger reason than that. I just thought that it sounded nice. So he said La Lune, so I said La 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 Luna. And it was all like exaggerated and shit because kids. I was like 3 or 4 and I thought that was just the greatest thing. And then I pronounced it right whenever I called a big doggy that turned out not to be a dog. La Lune. So, like, there's actually a lot of history to it. I was actually told in kindergarten that I wasn't allowed to because they'd already written my legal name on the paper. And my mom didn't call me that at home. I didn't actually remember why, because the way that my dad died was like so traumatic. All I knew is that this is what I wanted to be called. I didn't remember why. I just knew this was anyway. I've basically been trying my entire life to get people to call me that. My mom was okay with it, but like everyone else is just kind of, oh, it's no big deal. It's not important. But to me it was pretty important, even whenever I couldn't remember why it was important. There were points I just stopped trying. But like inside it was just... Anyway. 29 years old and everybody but Munchkin calls me Luna. He just calls me Mom. So... or sometimes Mom, 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 Mom. You know, he'll Mom, 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 Mama, Mom, Mom, Mommy, Mom, Mom, Mom. You know, he'll sign it. You know, we have some sign language in the house. That's actually what this is. That's him going, Mom, 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 Mom. Like, if I'm talking, then he tries to interrupt me with sign language. He's got it figured out. Don't interrupt by talking, interrupt with sign language, and then you still have to tell him to wait a minute. Let you finish your sentence. Or he'll keep doing it. But I will admit, it is less rude in hearing culture to try and interrupt something in sign language than it is in hearing. So, like, you can address somebody like, hey, I want to tell you something. And all that you're doing is communicating that. And the person is just like, let me finish my sentence and then tell me. You finish your sentence and then you say, okay. And then they tell you. Well, yeah. Anyway, that got off track. But yeah, my kids called me Mom. Mama. Mommy. Mum. 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 But other than that, pretty much everybody calls me Luna. There are a couple people from, like, my younger days who might know the name Silence, but nobody uses it anymore. Also, some idiot went out there and, like, used that name to do a bunch of crap, so, like, I don't want an association with that dumbass. So, also, like, it was stupid, and they had no right to do that. It was with... It wasn't the type of nickname that you get and carry, you know, everybody calls you. It was, yeah. Anyway. And then the government decided that it was a gang, and it's really not. It was just a bunch of kids giving each other nicknames and Faygo showers. Most people are not violent, but one guy goes out and hatchets, you know, a rapist, and suddenly it's a gang. One guy out of, like, I guess they just realized that there were millions of people who did this and decided, oh my god, it's a gang now. Well, there were people who did it who were also in gangs. There were also a lot of people who didn't and never did anything bad to, like, anyone. So it's actually not itself a gang. It's just kind of something that some people do. Anyway, they used to call me Silence. And I never got into any of the bad stuff that went on. I just sort of chilled. I just sort of chilled, you know. That was it. I didn't really do anything wild or terribly noteworthy as far as that stuff went. I was just sort of Pickle's god sister. Okay, like, eventually we had, like, a huge falling out because she was kind of a hoe and brought some hoe-ish drama that she promised she would keep away. And, but yeah. It really wasn't that. It was just sort of chilling, listening to music, drinking soda, Faygo. Mapping out where they sold Faygo. And just sort of sitting at the park. Just not doing anything crazy. Just maybe walking around, shooting the breeze. Not actually shooting, I mean actually talking. You know, it wasn't anything wild as far as that went. Like, I know some people went outside of it. You know, they had their own groups, they went wild, but it had nothing to actually do with, you know, that being part of being that. It was just... But yeah, they used to call me Silence. Silence, it was literally a name that Pickles had picked. She said it was because whenever I was suffering, I was often silent. Yeah. She was also the one who got me to wear this shirt. She was always telling me to learn how to say no and all that.